part of Holland is known as the Flevoland. Isn't it incredible? But in 1957, this entire piece of land was totally underwater. In fact, this whole region was one enormous lake. Then the Dutch reclaimed it and decided to build a city, and Almere was born. Water, of course, still plays a very important part in life around these parts. And where there's water, there are also fish. So, where better to hold a huge angling competition? This is the Laage Vaart Canal, and it's the venue for the 22nd European Championships. There are teams here in Holland from 26 different nations. Almere has opened its doors to some of the best anglers in Europe. They'll spend the next few days locked in some of the fiercest competition imaginable. Match fishing at the top level is every bit as tense as test match cricket or international football. And to be picked to represent your country is a huge honour for everyone here. The European Championships come every year, and they're often seen as a prelude to the World Championships each September. But what does it all mean to those taking part? And who are the contenders for the trophy?
All the top teams are here. France, your Italys, your Hungarys. It's as difficult to win as a World Championships.
This canal, it's not the type of water where an Englishman, an Italian even, Frenchman, Belgian, and I can mention 6-7 countries more, have never seen a water like this before. So also they will be used to this kind of fishing. Obviously a lot of very, very good anglers on the bank. Not easy to say in advance we are going to do well here.
Like any international match, they're all important. So the Welsh, the Europeans, home internationals, they're all, everyone puts a lot of effort in to do well on them.
I've been part of 3 European Championships, and they are the 3 most important matches of my life. So I think that says it all.
The favourites are Holland. It's a canal they all know well. And just 2 years ago, the Dutch were world champions. Their team's a blend of youth and experience, led by Jan van Schendel and Stefan Verhoeven.
I wouldn't call us favourites. Obviously, you heard the people at the opening as some people expecting something of us, which I can understand. But in reality, and I mean what I'm saying, it's very, very tough to get a home advantage on this water.
We're really experienced now, still young, but we're doing this for over 10 years now, and yeah, it's going well in the team, and we learn a lot from each other. We've got people like Jon Arthur and Dieter Friedrichs who are really great anglers, and we do learn a lot from them, which is good.
England need to win here in Holland to return to the top of the world rankings. They were one of a dozen countries to miss last year's European Championships in Belarus because of difficulties transporting vanloads of angling equipment across Eastern European borders. England have 3 former world champions in their team: Alan Scotthorne, Will Raisin and Sean Ashby.
This year we've made a little bit of a different approach. We brought 4 youngsters this year, not youngsters, relative youngsters, if you can class 30 as youngsters nowadays, and 3 of the senior team. And we've let the 4 of them fish off between themselves this week and work hard and mix with Sean and with Alan and with William, and their benefit, it's been massively beneficial to them. Also, they've contributed massively to helping us decide what tactics we will eventually arrive with.
So I think there's 4 of us in the team at the minute. They've come up from under 16s, under 18s, under 22s, and then obviously into European teams. We fished home internationals in Holland last year, and we won a gold there. It's brilliant, really. It's good for youth and it's good for the team in general, I think.
The Czech Republic are defending champions after their success in Belarus. Tactics here in Holland will suit their style of angling, but it's also an event which can suit the smaller nations. Big bonus fish can change the match in an instant and turn a leaderboard upside down. Where do you think the match will be won and lost?
Individually, it'll be on the draw. If you can draw an end peg, and if you can draw another peg 3 or 4 from an end, and if you were to catch a bream 2 days running, you'd have a great chance individually. Team-wise, again, the draws going to play a large part. I think they're going to be 2 13-peg sections. If you're not near an end, it tends to get harder.
I think in this particular match, anybody could get on that podium because if you don't catch a bream, you can't actually make up the weight of a bream. So it will really depend on where you draw and whether there are any bream and whether any bream feed. Because if there's only 1 or 2 in each section, then it will be down to the teams who maximise that first sort of 40 minutes and catch some silverfish and put a weight together.
Is there a weight of expectation, you know, the people from your country hoping that you are going to do well? Does that put pressure on you?
Yeah, well, it's the same in any sport. I mean, you always support your home country, and when we played the Euro Champs football a long time ago, we want to win our own country. With fishing, it's the same. The problem is that people don't realize the small differences in between winning and losing. But it's their fair right to pick out their favourite country, and no problem.
Let's talk about football. The Welsh team did such a fabulous job in France. I mean, has that lifted the nation? Is everybody now kind of, you know, I know you always are, come on Wales, but even more so?
You know, absolutely, very much together, stronger. It did lift everybody, and we came here full of hope, and it gives you that dream that you believe you can. As a small nation, we've got a chance. Time will tell.
And the clock is ticking after the final day of practice, when all those rigs are tested to their limit. Remember, it's a competition where only float fishing is allowed, so no ledgering or using feeder tactics. Presentation is crucial, with delicate biting fish becoming increasingly difficult to catch as the pressure of the competition increases. But it is still possible to get plenty of bites. So, Will, interesting day's practice today. I know it's been tough. I'd be really interested if you could just talk us through the rig you've been using to catch the perch and the net of fish we've just seen you have.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite simple, to be honest. Very light floats, 0.3, 010 mainline, number 3 elastic through 3 sections, because there is a chance of hooking a slightly bigger fish. I've had a 6-ounce perch. Very fine Census John Francois float, very fine bristle. Shotted right down. You need some of the bites are real tiny indications. These small perch getting hold of the bait. You see there, I've just got a string of number 10 shots. A little kicker because we're lifting and dropping the rig. That just stops any tangles. A few little style leads, again, fine tuning, just to get your float shotted exactly right. You don't, if you have half an inch of float, you don't see any of the bites. Coming down, like I said, 010 mainline, 2 number 12 droppers, a 15-inch hook length of 07 fluorocarbon, and a size 18 fine match, Drennan match. Caught 2 4-pound bream on that hook the other day. And it's the sort of hook that is, yeah, very fine wire hook that allows perfect bait presentation. But there's something about it as far as getting bonus fishing.
The talk on the bank was that England's practice hadn't gone well. They'd failed to find the bream. Holland are in a similar situation, but Wales clearly have an edge, with 25 bream landed by their 5 anglers. Well, you've heard us talk about various different species here on this piece of water, and these are the sort of smaller fish that you'll see. We've seen quite a few perch. This is a perch, the kind of thing we see all the time back at home in England. But here in the canal, there are an awful lot of these. There are 1 or 2 bigger ones too. So these will make up part of the weight that we'll see tomorrow. We have tiny little skimmers. Isn't he lovely? Pretty little fish like that. That's a skimmer. It's a very small bream. And we'll see something along the same lines in a minute that's very different indeed. The rest of the weights will be made up of other fish like this. Tiny roach. Lots of very small roach in here too. Perhaps not as many as the guys would want to catch. And these will also contribute to the winning match weight. So you've heard us talk about the small fish, but you've also seen a few very special fish today. How about that? Isn't that a magnificent creature? That is a bream. Believe it or not, that is the big daddy, the relative of that tiny little skimmer. And let me tell you, if anybody catches 1 or 2 of these tomorrow, well, that could be a very significant moment indeed in these European Championships. It's the opening day of the European Championships in Holland, and bait checks are underway for the anglers taking part. There are strict limits on the amounts allowed to make sure everyone has the same. And in this competition, only natural baits are permitted. Well, Mark, all the baits you've got in front of you are very different to some of the stuff that the guys would see at home, and you've kindly agreed to show us through it before the match starts. So just run us through what's in on those bits of newspaper in front of you, please.
Well, a lot of people would think it's very complicated, but to an international angler, it's what we do most times when we're fishing for roach, perch, and then bream later. And all it is very simple, and you say complicated, but we have the Polish joker, and as you can see, this is very lively, and this is for the roach and the perch. And we feed it in a ball of damp leam and black ground bait, and that we would put 5 or 6 balls short at 6-7 metres to catch the perch and roach. And then after we've fed that, we would then go on to the really inert joker, which is Russian. And the Russian joker will not move or bounce about like the other. It will just stay inert on the bottom. And we mix that with the bloodworm, which, as you can see, is not bouncing about either. So that when we mix the two together, we don't put it all in one place. We make a nice meter round circle with it, so that if they come in, they can pick these off the bottom.
So that's the bait they'll be using, and here's the team news on the opening day. Holland have gone with a blend of youth and experience. Jo Adriolo, Dieter Friedrichs and Arjen Klopp all helped the Dutch to win world gold in Croatia in 2014. George Milder and Ramon Pasmans will also fish on day one. England have 3 former individual world champions in their starting lineup in Alan Scotthorne, Will Raisin and Sean Ashby. Matt Derry and Matt Godfrey, who's won 3 world championships for England at junior level, make their senior debut. And here's a look at the Wales team. Lee Edwards, Darren Frost, Ian Leach and Ben Roberts are joined by John Harvey, who caught a bream late on Friday to secure his place. Al, how's your draw?
I don't really know, to be honest. I mean, when we fished this section, we fished a little bit further up and there were a few bream to catch. What it'll be like today, I mean, there were quite a few caught yesterday, and when that happened earlier in the week, the day after was not so good for them.
Interesting makeup of the team this year. I mean, you're the senior man. I know you've won the World Championships 5 times, but you know, you're the sort of father figure for all these guys, aren't you?
No. No, I mean, obviously, you know, I've been around a few years and got a little bit of experience now to, you know, to pass on to these lads who's coming through. With some good lads, I mean, you know, over the next few years, you know, you'd expect team to be strengthened, not weakened. That's a fact.
What are our chances in this event, do you think?
Well, to be honest, it's been very difficult for us because in practice I felt that we've not really sat where there's been so many fish. We've really been in middle of sections and things and sort of gone to wrong ends at times, so we've not really had a very good practice. Normally at this point I'm very confident, but not so much today, I'm afraid.
Well, we're about 5 minutes before the start of the match in Anger, and I ought to introduce you to my wingman for the event. This is Jon Arthur, who those of you at home will know as a very successful match angler, UK champion several times, more match wins than we care to mention. Well, you can mention them if you want, John.
I've had a few, I've drawn a few good pegs.
We're behind Alan Scotthorne on peg 15. We've been watching Alan feeding his swim up before the start. Can you just explain to us what's been going on?
Yeah, it's really interesting to watch what they're doing. Watching Alan, I've never seen it before, but it looks like he's fed 5 different pole swims. And bear in mind, you've only got a 13-metre pole limit. That's a lot of swims.
Much,
yeah, I mean, they've balled it at about 10 metres.
How important is this pre-baiting period?
Well, that's the most important part of the match, really, because that you've made your decision and there's no going back once you've put that bait in. There's been an odd bream rolling opposite on the reeds across the length as well. So there will be bream caught very early and very late, but those bream are huge fish, so they will really decide. They'll certainly decide the individual champion, but I think they'll be crucial in the team stakes as well. It's a starting hooter. What could be an absolute crucial line is 13 metres. Really accurately copped in, and if there's any bream about, that's where they seem to be catching a lot of these big bream. They have been catching them shorter on their small fish lines, but where they want to catch them is at 13 metres.
Whether we can see Alan pole in the air, and interesting looking along this length that we've seen almost everybody in these numbers in A section have a fish so far except for Al, and he's just landed his first fish. I can't quite see what that is. I think it probably is a little roach or maybe a perch. But at least he's underway. Well, Johnny, here we go. You said a couple of minutes ago that we'd see a bream, and we're not even 10 minutes in.
No, this is the time you get a real early burst of fish before they know what's going on, these big bream, and it's the end pegs are always where the bream seem to be showing. They've shown there all week on the I mean, he's only on peg 3, so the third peg up, so this is where the bream are expected to be today, at the start of A section, and and it looks like a good fish. I think he's going to get this one in by the looks of it.
Big old swirl there. I mean, it's interesting to see the technique he's using, because he's standing up with his pole right up in the air. He's not using, in the UK we often see people using puller kits, so you shorten the elastic by hand by pulling the elastic down the pole. But he's using the length of the pole to try and lift the fish up in the water, isn't he?
I think that's because they're fishing in deeper water as well. It's easier to use a puller kit if you're only fishing. Yeah, it's coming. If you're only fishing in like 6-7 foot water.
Oh, look at that!
Oh, that's a good fish.
Big round of applause for Christoph, and I think he's earned it. That's a fantastic fish.
He will be happy now.
So here is Arjen Klopp of Holland on peg A17. And you can see that Arjan's adopting a very different tactic to what we've seen elsewhere. In some of the other pegs, we've seen the anglers with a huge length of pole, 13 metres, and inside the pole limit here is 13 metres. That's the maximum length the guys are allowed to fish. But Arjen looks as though he's fishing really close into the bank with just his top 2 pole section. He's had, with an hour gone, 22 fish. Nothing of any size. Just small stuff, little tiny perch and roach, maybe the odd ruff.
Yeah, there's going to be an odd bream caught in every section, I think. So if you've got to forget them almost, if you're not in a bream area. And then I think their target for a lot of anglers is probably just 500, 600 grams of fish.
Well, a few minutes ago we saw the Belgian angler on peg A3 landing a bream, and now we can see Ireland's Francis McGoldrick, pole way up in the air with the bridge in the background. And this is a huge moment for Francis. We had a sneaking suspicion that A1 would deliver a few fish, and we know they're in the area. We know that because the Belgian anglers already landed one. So important to take your time with these big fish though.
So he's still got he might have an extra kick in it yet, but he had to frantically add an extra section, and he's got that must be 8 metres of pole in the air.
How many sections is that, 4?
No, I'd say that's 5 or 6 sections looking at it. Yeah, I think he's going to get this one, but it's a big fish. They just make big, powerful lunges, and it's exciting. I mean, people think bream don't fight. You watch this bream is fighting.
It's off out to the middle again. But the significance of this, I mean, you know, an entire nation's hopes rest on things like this in these events, because 1 or 2 fish like this in the hours we've got in front of us, and this could be the difference between a section win and the chance of a podium. That's one of the most sickening feelings in the world. He's gone for his landing net again.
Yeah.
You get the net in and the fish approaches the rim of the net, and then it just decides to turn and swim away, and these bream just plod off, don't they?
And it's in the middle of the river now. It doesn't want to do anything.
Well, we're about 15 minutes into the fight here on peg A1. Oh no, he's lost it.
No. Oh,
well,
dear.
that's heartbreaking.
That is. Has it broke his rig? It's broke his elastic. It looks like he's not got a float. It's took his whole rig. He's took his whole rig. He will be absolutely mortified by that.
Now there we have Lee Edwards of Wales. I've got a sneaking suspicion that the Welsh might do quite well at this event.
Yeah, again, just like the Irish, they're really confident. I think they had a brilliant session yesterday. I thought they caught 15 bream, but talking to the manager, they've had I think they had 25 bream amongst them yesterday, and Lee caught most of those. And Lee is, I rate him so highly. He's a brilliant angler.
You fished against Lee on the domestic circuit in England an awful lot, haven't you? What's his character like? What's he like in these big matches?
I think he's cool and under pressure. He's very, very, very skillful. He's really adaptable as well. I think he's a bit hungry for it today. I just get a sense. Oh, it's just nice enough. Just a little perch. I thought that was a bream then, but I think he can sense he's got a chance today. So obviously they want to do well for the team. but I know Lee, he'd love to win it individually as well.
The chances of Wales getting on the podium, I mean, the amount of effort and time that these guys put in, and it should be made clear at this point that these are not professional anglers. Some of them work in the angling trade, of course, but these are guys who are, you know, butchers, bakers, candlestick makers to all intents and purposes, representing their country. And you know what the Welsh are like, the pride that they have for representing their country.
The Welsh seem very confident, but I wouldn't like to say what nation's, you know, going to win before the start. I wouldn't put money on, you know, easy money on any of them.
I know what you're like with your money. Well, here we are in B section, and it seems that there are 1 or 2 breams showing here. We're looking at peg B2, which is Christian Birchi of Switzerland, who's the second peg in, and you can see the telltale sign of pole up in the air and rig disappearing off into the middle of the river that we just saw at the top end of the section with poor old Francis McGoldrick. But it looks as though Christian has got this one under control. This is the second bream he's hooked. Well, the landing net's out, slipping it under the bream, and he's landed it. Big round of applause, fully deserved. What a big fish that is. John, look at that. That's fantastic.
Yeah, that's is that his second now? So yeah, he's going to be very happy now, I think. Round of applause. Any of these bream, we've seen one been lost already. They take some getting in.
Look at the size of that thing. I mean, that's fantastic in a match like this.
Yeah, that's worth mega team points.
Now B25 behind England's young gun Matt Derry, and I've got the England manager Mark Downs with me. Mark, talk us through how Matt's been doing in the early stages of the match.
Well, our plan was to ball it at about 6 or 7 metres and pot at 5 metres, just one ball, and then fish long, as you know. It was a bit of a disaster for the first half hour for Matt. He was getting bites off tiny perch. He only had 2 fish in the first half an hour on his main attack line, and then he came in on his one ball at 5 metres and he put 21 fish in the net in half an hour. Only very small perch, 10 reasonable little perch and 10 very small little perch. Since that, he's got another 20 fish in the next hour, of which 50% are reasonable little perch and 50% are tiny fish. I think he's lying third in the section at the moment, might be fourth. The lad on the end peg to his right has not had anywhere near as many fish, but much bigger fish, and there's definitely one bream in his section. So at the moment he's doing really well. He's got another small fish, small perch on here. Now he's netted some of them, so he must be feeling a bit confident. I'll give him a rollicking in a minute for swinging that one.
Well, we're in C section now with Stefan Verhoeven behind the Dutch angler Ramon Pasman. Stefan, how's your morning gone so far?
Yeah, we caught some small fish. Only one guy had a bream in E section. Roman has caught, I think, 30 small fish. Now he's 5th place. And this section are 4 breams caught, and yeah, he's doing well. He can now spend more time on catching a bream, and that's what he's doing now.
So that's the tactic, is it, to try and get as many small fish as you can early on and then look for a bream later?
Yeah, the first 2 hours catch small fish for a safe place in the section, and then hopefully we caught a bream the last 2 hours. Yeah.
Well, we're behind Will Raisin now in peg C20, and Callum, things not going England's way around here. Explain what's happening.
Well, basically, this has been the best section all week for bream, and to be fair, there's been a lot being caught. I think there's 7 people in Will's section now with bream, and they're so big now you can't compete with them with little fish. And Will's probably top on little fish, but he's not going to come anywhere near the people that have got a bream. So he's probably lying 8th at the moment, but it's obvious that whatever we fed at the start is not quite right. There's certain people with 4 and 5 now, so whatever they're feeding is dead right.
In peg 19 next door is the Ukrainian angler Yuri Gerashenko, and you can clearly see that Yuri is playing a bream. Isn't this amazing? Will Raisin is the only angler in this stretch who hasn't caught one so far. Well, here we are behind John Harvey on peg C23 for Wales. Look over his shoulder from John. If he did have a big smile on his face, you wouldn't be surprised, because he's having a stunning match. John Harvey has 5 bream. Now, I haven't heard of anybody else on the entire match length who's had that kind of weight of fish, so there's a very good chance not only will John be winning his section, he may also be winning the entire match. It's pretty clear that Wales had some sort of edge about them, and when I pressed Andy Johnson yesterday for some details on that, he refused to tell me what they'd got, which is hardly surprising. Well, there you can see in the distance, Jon Harvey from Wales has just landed another bream. That's his 6th of the match. extraordinary performance from Jon Harvey. He's running away with it here, and, well, there's going to be an inquest from some of the other anglers around him, but let's just think about Jon for a second, because that is a fantastic performance from him. Well, Andy, we're looking at one of your boys, Ian Leach, on D12. He's had a bream. A few of your other lads have had a bream, in particular Jon Harvey. What is going on?
We're having a reasonable day for a change. Ian Leach has caught a bream, first look he went on it. The lad next to him's had 2, so Ian is probably second in this section. Jon Harvey has had 7 bream and is winning his section. Lee Edwards has had 3 bream and will be right up there. Darren Frost has just recently caught a bream up in E section, so he will be somewhere between 5th and 8th. And Ben Roberts is the only one who hasn't caught a bream, but he's in a tough section and he will be round about midway up the section, so he's caught quite a few bits.
Now listen, yesterday you were, I suppose, quietly optimistic, but at this stage you must be getting quite excited, aren't you?
No, because I've been here before, mate. I've been in a Welsh team which came second on a first day, and then also a Welsh team which was 4th on the first day. The problem we got is all the other teams will learn. England's doing very well today without catching bream. We will have to catch bream all again tomorrow, and if we don't catch them, we'll slide right down the leaderboard. So we need a real slice of luck tomorrow. So I'll be praying tonight.
You've obviously got a secret. Come on, tell us. We won't tell anybody.
I haven't got any secrets. I'm not that clever. we just get the prey mat out and have a go.
Well, we've made our way up to D section now, and we're right on the end of the whole section. Peg D1, Holland's Jon Arthur, who is doing pretty well in the section, about 3rd or 4th. No bream for Jon so far, but he has had 68 small fish. Well, we're right at the top of the match length now, and Peg E5, England's Matt Godfrey, and the clock is counting down. We're in the last minute of the match. Jon, this has gone very well for Matt.
Yeah, Matt's had an absolutely stunning debut, so never in doubt really. He's world class. I tip him as a future world champion. I really do. He's that good. But today, when I'd left him, he caught 67 fish, and no one had got near 20 fish in his section. And then he's gone out and had a bream, netted it faster than anyone else I've seen today, and then he's carried on catching small fish. So yeah.
Well, that's the hooter for the end of the match.
Matt looks happy, but he never looks disappointed. He's got such the right attitude, and he's put on a blinding display today.
What's the sort of feeling within the England camp now the match is over?
I think we've got a bit of a mix, but no one's blown out as such. Will's caught a bream dead late by the sounds of things, which has pushed him up. But it'll be exciting because these big bream feeding late will change all the points in the last 10-15 minutes, so I don't really know.
So here is the moment of truth for Matt Godfrey on E5 for England. And a nice net of small silverfish, one quite nice bream. Of course, we don't know the significance of this weigh-in yet.
5,105, 5105. Okay?
Wow.
Okay.
For Matt Godfrey, 5 kilos, 105. So here goes Jon Harvey then. And look at that for a net of bream from the Laage Vaart Canal. He's had a stunning afternoon. And if our guesstimates are correct, there's a very good chance he will have won this match. He's had 7 bream plus a few silverfish. And if Jon's guess is correct, he reckons that these bream are 2 kilo roughly each. So big round of applause already. I think it's a done deal, surely, that he's won this section. A couple of anxious moments. It's 15 kilo. It's 15 kilos. Wow.
Oh, I've had a nice day. I didn't go to plan at the start. I started fishing for small fish and just couldn't get bites. But I've gone out looking for a bream and caught one. And then once I had one, I had a bit of a free roll then to go and catch some more. So
I think it's extraordinary. You've caught 7 bream, haven't you? Looking around the match length, I don't think anybody else has done that. So what are you doing differently to the rest? Is this a trade secret you can't tell us?
I can't say yet, but it's a good area for bream by here. We caught some in practice, and it is a good area for them. But I can't really say what I've done yet.
So there is a little edge you've got somewhere?
Well, we think so.
That's wonderful in these matches when you've got something that works.
Yeah, well, hopefully, because the boys have all caught bream as well. think there's only one of us in the team that haven't caught one. So
I mean, obviously you're not going to give it away, but is this something that you picked up yesterday?
yeah, yesterday and a couple of other days as well that sort of accumulated into this sort of plan we got. But you never know, we'll see what happens tomorrow.
Here's the situation at the halfway stage of the European Championships. In the individual rankings, Jon Arthur from Wales leads the entire field with 15 kilos 805. Second is Laage Vaart from Hungary, who also caught bream in the top of E section. Lee Edwards from Wales is third. England's only angler with a section win to his name is Matt Godfrey, who's back in 8th. In the team ranking, Wales lead on 16 points, just one ahead of England, with Belarus in 3rd. The home nation Holland were in 5th, 9 points off a podium place.
Mate, it's England against Wales.
Yeah, we beat them at football, so it's not too much of a problem really, is it? It's going to be ever so difficult. It's really uphill for us today. We're 1 point behind. They've outdrew us 4-1 on quality of pegs in sections. On a level playing field, I'd give our lads 70% chance of beating them, but it's not a level playing field, but we'll do our best.
We're England against Wales, aren't we, effectively, which is fantastic.
Yeah, no, it seems like that in a lot of the sections. So I think in Matt Godfrey's section, you've got Ian Leach in the same section as well. So it's going to be good. It's going to, I hope they both do really well. So and all the home nations. But it's great to see that you've got someone that's done really well on day one, who has got a very realistic chance of another section win today. And he's just fishing for small fish at the moment, and he's doing very well.
Well, that's about 11 I've counted. He had 9 before we started talking, and he's had 2 since we've been stood here.
And that was a roach as well that he just swung in, I think. So he's getting some dumpier fish.
So B section now, and this is peg B4, and we're behind Ian Leach of Wales. An interesting draw this for Ian. He's a couple of pegs in from the end, and this is an area where an awful lot of bream were hooked yesterday, but not many were landed. So we know there are fish in this area. Ian finished second in his section yesterday. He was in section C, finished with 2 kilos 684. But the interesting bit of his match yesterday was pretty much who he beat, because this is one of the reasons Wales are at the top of the tree in this match. Ian beat Joe Adriolo of the Netherlands, Sean Ashby of England, and just 1 or 2 other fantastically strong anglers in his section. Today, Ian is fishing again against some very strong anglers, not least Matt Godfrey of England, who is 4 pegs to Ian's right. Well, Johnny, here we are in B section behind Matt Godfrey, and it looks like Matt's had a really, really good start.
Yeah, really, really promising start. He was straight into roach, interestingly, roach and perch. I think Diego da Silva, a couple of pegs up, has caught some dumpy little roach as well, and it's the other interesting thing is an hour in, and there's not been a single bream caught in A or B section yet, and normally you'd expect to see a rogue fish on that short line or on the long line.
Well, John, we're up in C section now, and we're behind the kind of higher numbers and looking at the Slovakian angler Thomas Mindak, who is clearly playing one of our favourite plodding bream.
Yeah, and by the looks of it, he's not hooked it on a bream rig. He's got very light elastic on. That's the first time it's topped. I think he must be playing it for 20 minutes now.
But there is some other bits of news reaching us from elsewhere in the section. We've seen Scotland are doing pretty well, and we hear that 3 of their anglers have landed bream. But also, you've just heard something else from Ian Leach's section in B.
Yeah, Ian's got 2 bream now. So the Welsh definitely have these bream licks, really. I think they seem to know what they're doing.
Well, here we are behind Darren Frost in C20. And although the news for the rest of the Welsh team is really positive, in fact, Ian Leach with those 2 bream is probably winning his section, the news for Darren is not so promising. Because at the moment, we're into the 2nd hour, and Darren Frost has only had 1 small fish. At the moment, it's looking like he's dead last in section, 13 points. Now, although you can probably carry 5 or 6 points to get you to win the championships, 13 would be a real problem. There's a long way to go in the match, and the tactic here is clearly that Darren is fishing for bream. So if he catches 1 fish, it changes the game completely. And we've already seen that there are anglers around him, the Hungarian at the top of the section, the Slovakian further down to Darren's left, who have hooked bream at least. So they are moving around, and his hope will be that that float goes under and he latches into one of these fantastic Laage Vaart bream. Well, John, we're behind Will Raisin on peg D21, and there's a fair amount of communication between Callum, Dixie's bank runner, and Will. What's going on?
Yeah, I mean, Callum's just reassuring Will that the whole section's fishing rock hard. I've just had a word with Callum, and there's just an odd fish coming out, no pattern, no one seems to be stringing 2 or 3 fish together. But what you can see with Will, he seems to be working harder than anyone else I've seen. I've seen him pot in 10 minutes, just tiny little balls on 2 or 3 different lines regularly. I've seen him catch 2 or 3 fish since I've been here, so he's doing all right. But this is probably the hardest section.
Well, we're behind Ben Roberts, D6, and I'm with Andy Johnson, the Welsh manager. Andy, things starting to get a little bit nervous now. What's going on?
I've got 4 anglers who are doing well. One's winning his section. Unfortunately, I've got 1 angler I need to see in a minute who's towards the bottom of his section.
I'm getting the feeling that this is going to be a really, really tense day and almost anything could happen. Would that be a fair assessment?
Yeah, it is. This is going to be a roller coaster because, as we saw yesterday, bream can be caught any time, and they're real game changers now, especially in a section where they're not being caught. So, but if they start to get caught, then it's not unusual to see 2 or 3 people in a line catch them within 5 minutes of each other.
Well, I'll let you go off and see Frosty, and very best of luck. We'll see you later. Well, another end peg, John, and another angler in with a chance of being European champion. We're looking in the red cap, Tamas Valter, simply one of the best anglers in the world, isn't he?
Yeah, he's an absolute star.
And yesterday, of course, Tamas had 13 kilos. He was second in the match overall behind John Harvey, who had 15.
Yeah.
Today we know, first chuck, Tamas had a great big eyed, which was about 2 kilos in weight, so 4 pounds odd.
Yeah.
And he's also the only person in this section with a bream. Well, here we are in E section, and there on peg E1 is Alan Scott Horn, 5-time world champion. And the news from the bank is decent here, that Alan is actually winning his section. He's got 1 bream and 30 smaller fish. But we have already established that this is a match between Wales and England. A few moments ago we spoke to the Wales manager, Andy Johnson, and he was heading off to see Darren Frost, who was struggling. I do bring you other news, Mr. Arthur. And that is that Darren Frost has now caught a bream.
Well, that's absolute dream for Wales, isn't it? So whatever Andy's information he's given them, it's the right information.
Well, we're behind Lee Edwards, the last peg in this part of E section, E13, and Andy Johnson's made his way back up to E section, and I think you have some news about the adventure with Mr. Frost.
Well, that's helped massively because Darren was last in his section. He's now probably 5th. So that's an 8-point jump, which is really significant for us.
Now, let's talk about this bream secret again, because we've pinned you down on this several times over the weekend, and you're still not giving anything away. Come on.
I wouldn't say we've got a secret. We're just applying some intelligent angling skills.
Downsy says you've got a secret. He knows you've got something that you're doing, whether it's something in your bait or the way you're feeding or something. You found some sort of little edge. And every time you go and speak to somebody, they seem to catch a bream. It's you, isn't it?
I've got a few ideas, and this week a couple of things are coming together. But I'll be honest with you, the mix we're using is all down to Ian Leach, and we call it the Wiggy mix.
Wiggy mix? Why is the Wiggy mix?
Because we call Ian Leach Wiggy.
I'm very interested to find out a lot more about this Wiggy mix. I bet 1 or 2 other people. We've got about an hour left. I bet there are people that would sell their grandchildren to know the Wiggy mix at the moment.
And as I said to Mark Downs, I can only give you my rank, name and service number.
Well, we're back in A section behind Matt Derry, A17. We've got about 20 minutes left, and I'm with Mark Downs again. Mark, what's the scenario? I've just seen you doing some calculations. You've been phoning around all the runners and trying to work out who's where, so scores on the doors.
So I think we've got between 17 and 24 points, so our best possibility is 17. And without a bream, we cannot improve on 17. Wales, their best case scenario is 12. So both best case scenarios were 5 points adrift plus 1 yes, that's 6 points. Their worst case scenario is 18. That's what we reckon. 18. So the only optimistic point we have got is if we have our best case scenario and they have their worst case scenario, 1 point in it, we'll tie them points and they'll beat us on weight.
Where's this match being won and lost today, do you think?
And as far as I'm concerned, for us today, it's been lost on the draw a little bit. And where the bream are, we've not been in the right end of the section. But on small fish, we're all up again. I don't think we'll have a result worse than 5th or 6th, so we can't do any more than we've done off the pegs we've got today.
Well, that's it. The match is over. The hooter sounds. Jon Harvey puts his top kit back on the roost. Don't think he's going to be European champion, but the big question for Wales is, have they beaten England to the team gold? This is going to be absolutely incredible when we see the scales come round in a minute and the story of this match unfolds before us. Here come the scales then on A26 and Jon Harvey. Lower down in the section, there was a good chance that Scotland's James Dornan would have won the section with that weight of 5 kilos, but he's been beaten to the point by Alain Demille of France, who's had 7 kilos 127. But the real story here is whether Jon Harvey has beaten Matt Derry and what the significance of those points will be in the overall team competition. Here comes Jon's keep net. He's got lots of small silverfish. The bream didn't show for Jon Harvey. And he's got to beat 1 kilo 800. There's 2 little ones left in the bottom of the net there, and every single fish will go into that sling. The sling will be lifted onto the scales, and it's not going to beat 1 kilo 800. It's 1 kilo 40.
14,75.
1 kilo 475 for Jon Harvey of Wales,
1475.
which puts him below Matt Derry in this section.
So how many's that with Darren? 18. Oh, well, we might have 18, depends on Darren.
18 points for Wales, maybe.
Well, all in all, everyone.
Well, there's Darren Frost of Wales, and his weigh-in, 2 kilos 821, which means he is 3rd in section. And that's looking like Wales have got 16 points, which may well be enough to win this European Championship. Darren's on his phone, speaking to family, I think. Looks a little bit emotional to me. It's been an incredible match for the Welsh. Lee Edwards has done well in E section. Darren Frost has pulled it back from 13 points from absolutely nowhere. And there we are, there's the reaction which says it all. Wales have done it. European champions. How about that?
So here's confirmation of the final standings. Hungary's Tamás Walter won the individual title with a perfect 2-point return. But this scoreboard tells a story all of its own. Wales are European champions. They beat England by 4 points, with Hungary in 3rd.
Mate, I've been waiting for this for so long. I just can't tell you how I feel. You better keep your hand on my shoulder because I'm going to float off in a minute, mate, I tell you.
It's nice to see them get on the podium because Andy works his socks off on his own. He's got no help. It's just been Andy and his team, and they've kept themselves to themselves. They've worked hard at what they're doing. Andy's been on the bank watching people, trying to find out as much as he can. I mean, I think they've scored really, really low points, but the top performer in their team, without a shout of doubts, has been Andy, the manager.
It won't sink in until I get home, I don't think, but it's emotional. It's fantastic, absolutely fantastic.
To see your boys celebrating like this, what does it mean to you, Andy?
It means all the hard work by all of us has paid off. Some of the lads have been doing this for 20 years. I've been involved with the Welsh team for 15 years. It's hard work, but when you get this moment, all the hard work suddenly is worth it, it pays off. Awesome.
You do look quite emotional. I mean, sport in Wales is about emotion, isn't it?
Absolutely. Whatever, Welsh, Celtic people, Welshmen in particular, are emotional people. I guarantee you, when we go up on the podium, I'll have a blub. And I'm not at all ashamed of it, mate. Because do you know what? That's the emotion, the relief coming out. It's been hard work.
I think they're quite pleased.
I can't
swim, but I'm going to get it anyway.